Hello everybody, AskPat13 here. Welcome back to another video, and this time we're going to be doing some player rankings. So, uh, as you probably know from my channel, Spring Major is coming up, RLCS 22-23 Spring Major in Boston. And now I'm going to be predicting the players. So up here first is the 16 teams, is a refresher that'll be at the Major. So only players on these teams are eligible to be ranked. I know there are some players that a lot of people might consider top 24. By the way, I'm doing top 24 specifically. There are a lot of players that might be in top 24 in the world, but couldn't make, or didn't make rather, this Major. So yep, just these teams. And yeah, I'm going to be doing my best to predict, who's going to perform the best on land, who's going to be the best player in the world, who will everyone be agreeing is the best player in the world after this LAN. Without further ado, let's get into it. So first up at 24, I have Chronic. Now this might be quite a bit low for a fall major winner, but at the end of the day, Gen.G haven't done as well this split, and they didn't do as well in the winter major as well as they did back in fall. And although Chronic's still an amazing player, good enough to earn a spot here in my top 24, I just don't think he's going to have quite as good a major as he did in the fall. I don't think he's going to be, one of the very best players, but he's still going to be in that upper group, in that top 24. And yeah, so, he's good, he's aggressive, he plays well with his team Gen.G, but I do think Gen.G, they had to play tiebreaker, and now that could make them, that could have hyped them up, qualifying to the major through tiebreaker. I think they were quite a bit nervous throughout their last regional. They lost to G2, not a bad team, but a team that if they're a major team, they shouldn't be losing to. That G2 squad was a little bit past the point of cutoff for making the major. And yeah, I think Chronic will do well, but not well enough to be a little bit further in on this list. Alright, moving right along, we got Drafino. This might be a little bit of a surprise as well. A lot of people might not be rating Crew. I think Drafino's the best player on Crew, which is a little bit revealing about the rest of the list. That there might not be another Crew player, but I think he's really good at Rocket League. I don't watch a lot of Sam, but when I do, Crew's often popping off, and Drafino is leading that charge. And I think that he's going to lead his team far. I don't know how far, but I know they're one of the... Well, I don't even want to say one of the better teams because this major is stacked. But I know they're not one of the worst teams, that's for sure. And I would be kind of surprised if they did go out 13th to 16th. I expect them to get at least one win. And when they do get that series win, I think Drafino will be behind it. So yeah, moving right along. Next we got apparently Jack, another Gen.G player. Now it's probably quite surprising again to see another Gen.G player so low, but I'm a bit down on Gen.G. Again, not that they're a bad team, but I think apparently Jack is just not going to have as good a major as some of these other players. I think his team's not going to do as well, and it's hard to... Now, it is possible to solo carry a team that performs pretty poorly and still be one of the top players, but I think Gen.G is pretty balanced. I don't foresee that happening. I think they'll all play good, but the team will still struggle just because this is a stacked major. Yep, apparently Jack known for kind of being a leader on his squad as well. Alright, moving on to 21. I have Cash. Now, I really like Cash, and I really hope he does well and Moist does well, but I do think that Moist is going to be one of the weaker teams in the event in terms of North American and European teams, especially European teams. They are coming in as the 5th seed, and I think they were very clearly the 5th seed. They were behind the other 4 European teams. And I think Cash is going to lead his squad and score and be like the best player on the pitch, potentially in series, where no matter who they're playing, well, not no matter who they're playing, he could be the best player on the pitch, right? But not that his teammates are bad. Everyone knows Joyo is amazing, and he's got Juicy as well, but I think that he'll be one of the better players on a team that doesn't perform super well in Moist. But I'd be happy for them to prove me wrong. And 21's still quite good. He's making a mention on this list. Alright, next up we got Clears. Now, I don't know a lot about Rule 1, besides, they're playing in Mina. I've watched a few highlight videos, but I haven't been watching Mina live this split. In the past I sometimes did, but I don't think I've watched Mina live this season, Middle East. So, for anyone that isn't aware, he's on Rule 1, a team that beat out Falcons. Team Falcons is probably the most famous team out of Middle East, who've played in every RLCS event for Mina before this, where Mina played, RLCS LAN where Mina played, and but now Rule One's dethroned them. They've made it. They've made it to the major, and I think they're very excited. This is a team that is all young, all RLCS LAN rookies. Clears has never been to a LAN. He's one of the twins with RW9. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. It's like Arwas. I'm probably pronouncing Clears wrong, but I think I'm pronouncing it right. Tell me in the comments if you know I'm pronouncing it wrong. But anyway, I think Clears is a great player. I think his twin brother's also an amazing player, and I think they can carry Rule 1 far. I had them at 8 in my power rankings Rule 1, and I do think the squad could go even further than that. I know some people say it's crazy to rate them so high when they haven't played on LAN, but Minos look pretty consistent, right up there with, you know, the South America, the Europe, North America, and although they've underperformed the last few LANs, Falcons did have a top 2 run a year ago at the Spring Major last year, and it could be history repeating itself. I don't think Rule 1 will go that far. I do think they would be, if they did, they would be an underdog getting some upsets, but it's entirely possible. They're in that batch of teams that I think could go further if they got, you know, if they got some steam, if they were playing well, like peaking, as people like to say. But yeah, and I think Clears would be part of that. So very good player, very solid player, and I think that if Rule 1 does do well, a lot of these players will be in that, a couple of their players would be in that conversation for best in the major. Alright, moving on. We got 19. I have Rise. He's on BDS now, but he's famous from his time on Moist. He spent some time on Oxygen last split, and now he's on BDS. They've looked much better since they added Rise, so some people might think this is quite low. I mean, they're coming in as the number 2 seed in Europe. In my power rankings, I had them go all the way down to 4, which is still quite high for the major, so maybe a little revealing about what his teammates, where they might be on the list. But yeah, I do think Rise is good, and I think he's great, even a great player. But I maybe a little bit biased, but I like some of his teammates a little bit better. I think I think it's hard to. He's going to look great, but especially when you're the demo player, which he is. He's like the aggressive demo pusher, demo chaser, which is a very important role. But it's hard to like be that carry player, scoring goals and stuff like that when you're fulfilling the role Rises, which is a very important role on a team. At the end of the day, you don't need to be the best player on your team if your team wins the tournament, right? So Rise plays for the team win, which might hurt him here on a list like this, but he's still quite an amazing player. Alright. Before I move on, here's a little snippet. I'm going to show the last video. I was showing teams the list each time. I think it's more appropriate to show the list after we've seen a bit of it. So this is the first chunk of the list of the back 6 players, the last 6 players in my top 24. It's shaping up nicely. There's not really any trends for now, so I'll take this time to say that if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to see more. And you know, as I'm going through this list, comment if you agree, if you disagree, what you think, how you think the major will go, and most importantly, who you think the best player in the world is going to be after the major. All right, now we'll get right back into it with number 18, Itachi. Now, Itachi's an amazing player on an amazing team, but that's part of the problem is he's on quite an amazing team, and I think that it can be hard to stand out on such a stacked roster like Karmine Corp. And although it is possible to have 3 players like in that like top 10, top 6 even like type conversation, and we've seen it before, I don't know if that's going to be the case for Karmine Corp this major. I don't know if they're going to win the event, for example, is what it would take for like all 3 players to be considered top 10 at the event, in my opinion at least. I shouldn't be associating individual performance with results so much, but again, when he's on a stacked team like this, he's not only competing with all the other players in the major, but he's kind of competing with his teammates in terms of just being on this list, which the players shouldn't be thinking about a list like this anyway. But yeah, I think Itachi's quite good, but his teammates, you know, Vatira, everyone knows, is being considered the best in the world at times, and I think Exotic is showing another level. So even though Itachi's quite good, I have him down here at 18 because I think he's going to be playing more of that like supporter role on his team and might not be getting as much score, you know, as many goals per game type deal. But yeah, still, you know, making decent progress on I mean, 18 in the world's not bad at all. Alright, on to number 17, LJ. Now, I know a lot of people underrate Space Station Gaming, the players as individuals, even though the team's done quite well. But I think that belief might come to an end on this LAN. I think that some of the Space Station players are going to show up, and although I don't have them going super far, I think they could easily make a top 6. They're coming into the 1 seed in North America, and they earned it, and it's players like LJ that put them there. So in a lot of ways, 17 might be even too low, but that I digress. I think it's about where he'll land on his team as well, because there's another player. Well, spoilers for future, but there might be another SSG player a little bit higher. Um, but yeah, I think LJ will do quite well. I think Space Station, he can show why he's deserved a spot earlier. When he got the offer from Space Station, that was his first like big break. Although he'd been on Oxygen for quite a while, and I think that he's just getting better and over time. And he's one of those players that it gels well with others. So he works well with no matter who he's with. And on the team he's with now, even though none of the three of them, Arsenal, Hawks, or LJ, are considered or have been considered top individually, I think that their team play has been so good that they earn the 1 seed, and through that team play, it's going to reveal the strengths that the individuals do have, like LJ. All right, and next up we have number 16, Lost. Now, for most players in this list, I found a current photo with their current team. This photo, I couldn't find a current photo of a Furia Lost, so this is a photo of Lost when he played for the club. But yeah, you get the picture. He's playing for Furia now in North America, and Furia have done quite well. So well, in fact, that I think they're going to do pretty good at this major. And I lost pretty high here. I think that he seems to do great, and he was lauded in South America for a reason. And he's the part of the reason the club did so well at a LAN even, which was at the World. It was either the World. I think it was the World Championship. They lost to Furia out at 8th or 9th, 12th. They did quite well in the world, and Lost was a big part of that, and I think he was a big part of this Furia resurgence. They had a poor winter split after they added Lost, but they've gelled now, and he's looking good, and I expect him to do quite well at the major. Alright. Whoops. Next up is Mata. Now, Mata's on Ninjas in Pajamas. I was shocked that there actually is a photo of Mata, but there is. Thank you, Ninjas in Pajamas, for releasing one, because he hasn't played on an RLCS LAN before. He is a kind of new to more casual RLCS viewers player. He's a South American player. He just joined in Ninjas in Pajamas. This was his big break, and he has seized it. Ninjas in Pajamas were looking good. Now, South America is a very tough region because there's only 2 spots. So even though they did lose to Crew, they got bracket reset by Crew in the last regional in SAM. They still look really good, and to get top 2 over Team Secret was quite an accomplishment. And so, Nip should be proud, Ninjas in Pajamas, and Mata is a huge part of that. I think that everyone thought Kaio would do great on the squad, but Ninjas in Pajamas with Kaio just stopped clicking at a point, and Mata is like it's back. And now again, I don't think they're best in SAM anymore, but with Mata, they've leveled up, and they're back in that contention, in that talk. And if they do pop off at the major, it's going to be because of this player. It's going to be because of Mata. He is a LAN rookie, though, so I'm here putting him here at 15 for now, but I could easily see him going higher. He could be in a top 10 or even better, at this major if he's like a LAN. Some players are just better on LAN, and that could be him. It could be Mata. All right, moving on. Next, I have Seiko. Now, this is probably going to be higher than a lot of other people would have Seiko, and it might be a little bit of bias. I've been a Seiko fan since his days on Endpoint, but I like Seiko. I think that he has his ups and downs, but his ups are high, and I think that he's going to have an upswing here. I think this is he missed the last LAN with BDS, so it's been a break, and I think he's just going to lock right back in onto his LAN form. And Seiko Unlocked is something to witness. I'll tell you, he's incredible mechanics, and he has the backing teammates to boot. I mean, he has Rise and Monkey Moon, so I think he's going to do well. His team's going to do well this LAN. It's going to be a large part due to him. This could be a missed prediction. I think it could easily be Rise playing better than Seiko, but I have Seiko here around 14 in the world, playing better than Rise. He has another teammate that you may see later in the list, Monkey Moon, but this is about where I have Seiko. Alright, moving up, next we have Oski. Now, Oski is one of the Liquid players. Him and Toe joined Acronic, and they kind of came up out of nowhere, except for Acronic had been around the scene for RLCS in a bit. But they joined together with Acronic on Liquid. In fact, I think Acronic was on Liquid when they were struggling. They had a period, the org, where they were struggling. They picked up a lot of different players across that time. Anyway, I digress. talking back about Oski, he's looked really good ever since he teamed up with the Tau, and they came in at the spring split last season, and even though they only played in one split, they looked amazing. They made the spring major, they looked really good. They've looked good ever since, and Oski's a huge part of that. I think he's a great player, and he's going to contribute to however far this Liquid roster does go. In my prediction bracket, I had them out quite early, but that's just, there's some random chance thrown in. There's teams overperforming, and if Liquid performs to expectations, they will not go out early. They will be, I'd say, a top 6 or better. I think I had them 5th in my power rankings, and that's about where they sit. I think they could easily get top 6, and they could easily overperform that. I think every team has that band of over or underperformance. Players as well, Oski as well, so he could do better individually. I think he'll sit about here though, 13th in the world if his team does as well as you'd expect him to do. All right, moving on. We're done now with half the list. We have our the bottom half of our top 24, the bottom 12, and now we'll move right along. Next is AJ. Now this is the first time I'm mentioning an Optic player, and although I love Optic, I do think that AJ kind of carries his team at times, and Magic Bear and Rattles can be a little less consistent. Rattles is a demo heavy, demo chase aggressive player, and that can affect, like I talked about earlier, it can affect your score per game, your goals per game, and I try to take into account for that, but really when you're talking about players that carry, you are going to be looking to those goal scorers, those flashy plays. And again, it's not all about being on a list like this. If you're helping your team win, that's the most important thing, and the players certainly know that. But back to AJ, he is kind of that guy for Optic. He's the best player. He's a player that many think should never have been kicked from FaZe. I mean, he's quite good. Quite good. 12 could be low. I think that even if Optic does poorly, he could easily be a top 10 player at the LAN. And I think he'll sit about here, though, around 12, which top 10 could be about that. If Optic does do well, it's going to be through AJ, and if Optic doesn't do well, AJ probably still will do well, and that's why I have him here. I think he's just a great player, and not that his teammates are bad, but he definitely, it took him and his teammates time to gel. But they are gelled now, so they could go far. We'll see how it goes. Alright, next up is Rawas. It is Rawas, and even though it's spelled like this, I apologize any Mina fans watching. I try to get the pronunciation right. But yeah, I have him here at 11. I think the Real One's going to do quite well. And if they do, I know there's kind of debates, Kalir is Rawas, who's going to be the better player? I think it'll be Rawas. Although I know, and I know that's actually probably the more popular pick, but I've seen some people argue it the other way. If you look statistically, Kalir's has done better. But I think Rawas is going to be that guy this time around for Real One if they do pop off. And if they don't, I think he's still going to look like their best player. He's just very mechanical, and when you put them on a LAN environment, I think it's going to unlock a lot of mechanics because there's no lag, no ping, no issue. They get to scrim EU teams, so I'm sure they have experience with some of these top squads going into the major. They got here early. By the time I'm recording this, 29th of June, they're already in North America. In fact, I think they've been here for a few days, so I'm sure they're already scrimming. They're going to be, well, I don't know if they're going to be playing in any tournaments, tiny tournaments before the main event of Boston, but they're here and they're scrimming, and I think Rawas is going to feed off the crowd, feed off the energy. I think he can do quite well. I think he could be top 10 even. He's 11 here on my list, but he definitely do better. Could do a little worse if Real One does worse, but I think he's going to look like one of the best players in the LAN, and yeah. Oh, fun fact, this is a photo from Saudi E-Leagues. Most of these photos will be like more obvious moments from RLCS, but I couldn't find a lot of photos of the Rule 1 players, and I saw this one as his profile pic, because they won E-League, Saudi E-Leagues 2023. It's like the biggest LAN in Saudi Arabia, as I understand it anyway. So it's a big deal that they beat Falcons in that event, and then they beat Falcons, and that was in March, I think, so a few months ago, and then they beat Falcons to make the major, so Rule 1's on an upswing. Falcons aren't the top dogs anymore. Alright, moving right along, and next I have Monkey Moon. Now I think BDS is going to do quite well, although all their players are 10th or lower. All three are on this list, and I do think though they're a little bit lower than some other teams because they probably will perform a little bit worse. But yeah, I think Monkey Moon's really good. I think he's still top 10 in the world. He's been best in the world. He could do even better than this. I just think the BDS players are going to play a little closer performance to each other. I don't think Monkey Moon is going to have a huge pop off and play incredibly better than his teammates, for example. But he is just a solid all around player. And when he is on, he is the best player in the world. He still can be to this day the best player in the world. So this list could be wrong. He could end up carrying BDS to another LAN win. I would be not too disappointed in that as a BDS fan. But yeah, definitely think he could do better. But I think looks about where Monkey Moon sits. You know, he's going to be in that 15 to top 5 range as a player. All right. Moving right along, I got a Tao. He's going to be my highest rated liquid player. I thought about putting a Chronic on the list, but he just didn't quite make the cut. I think his two teammates are a tad better, which is no offense to a Chronic. This is just a stacked major. And a Chronic, all the players, by the way, didn't make my top 24. I thought about doing honorable mentions, but I chose not to because a lot of these players all were close. And at the end of the day, I think that any of the players that didn't make this list, could just have a pop-off and prove me wrong. They're all great. But yeah, back to a Tao. He's just good. He's so solid. I think that he's the best player on Liquid, although I know that a little bit of debate either way. I think he's the best player on Liquid, and I think he's gonna pop off at this LAN. Lead his team, probably be the best player in a couple series. Yeah, he's gonna be that guy. I have him at 9 because I don't see Liquid going too much further than top 6 potentially, and it's hard to solo. I don't think he's gonna solo carry his team either. But yeah, I think he's gonna do quite well. All right. Next up is 8. I have Hoxer. Now, I don't think Space Station is guaranteed to get top 6, but I think they have a very solid shot, and Hoxer is going to be carrying them on the way there. I think this is his first LAN since Season 8 Worlds, and I think he's just going to show everybody up. I think he's better. I think he's had some rough patches, and he's also played with some not so great teammates. But here he is. He got a shot on a top team, and it's funny because some people didn't think Space Station would be a top team, but when he got picked up, they were one of the top teams in points, and now they've maintained that. Now they've made the major with Hoxer, without Daniel, and he is the reason why. I think he is much better than we gave him credit for, myself included. I didn't think they would do as well as they've done. They're number 1 in NA. Hoxer's a huge part of that, and it's not like he's a 1-to-1 with Daniel. Daniel is known to be that guy, that top player on the team, and takes the ball and stuff. Hoxer doesn't do that. He's not taking the ball away from his teammates. But I still think that despite not taking the ball away, he's still going to be that person scoring the most goals and having the most impact individually. So I expect Hoxer to do quite well. I have him here at 8 because I don't have his team going like the distance, but he is quite good individually. And if they did go the distance, he could be like maybe go back. Let's say top 10. I think Monkey Moon forward. All these players could be the best. So that's kind of like the although this is a collection of player rankings for the major, that's like the goal of this video, is just who's going to be the best player in the world. Who do I predict? And although I will have a number 1, that is my prediction, I think all these players in the top 10 could be the best player in the world at the end of the LAN. So Monkey Moon, Tao, Hoxer, and everyone forward from this could be. So we'll see how Hoxer does. Alright, next up at 7, I have Raise Bull. I think he is Complexity's best player by a pretty good margin. He does have his lows, but he has more highs than lows, and his highs are incredible. He was the qualifying moment for Complexity. He hit that last goal. I think he's looked quite good in general this split, and I think he's going to continue looking good in the major when Complexity, if they do well, which I think they will, or at least I think they'll get top 8, top 6, maybe further. But they're going to do well enough that I think Razebull's going to show his stuff. And if they go further, it's going to be on the back of Razebull, I would predict. And like I said, he could be the best player in the world. I don't think he will be, but he's definitely has the ability to. So yeah, we'll see how he does. Oh, sorry I couldn't find a photo of him smiling that was like high res enough. There were some low res photos of him smiling or other people in the photo. So sorry, Razebull. You're one of the few photos that you're not smiling, but I found some happy smiling photos just so everyone knows they weren't high enough resolution. But yeah, moving on. This is the list up to now. So here we are. We're down to the last 6 players. It's shaping up to be a solid list. I know there are some shockers here. I think a few players people would think of too high. Maybe Roas is too high. Maybe Mata, Seiko's too high. People, I think what I'm saying from like common trends I've seen in predictions or what people think will happen. Perhaps people think Chronic's too low. Apparently Jack's too low. Cash maybe too low. Rise too low. But these are just my honest anticipation of how things will go. I think you got to put a little bit out there, and that's just what I'm putting out there. I'm sticking to my guns. We'll see how the major goes. But without further ado, this is it. This is the big hurrah of the video, is to figure out who's the best player in the world. And we're gonna start down with 6 and work our way up to 1. At 6, I have Alpha 54. Now, this may come as a shock. People probably rate him higher. I know a lot of people do rate him higher, but I think that on a team as stacked as Vitality is, it can be hard to stand out. They are going to do well. In fact, they're one of the few teams that I would be very surprised if they didn't make it top 4. I think they're going to win, but if they didn't win, I still expect them to be around that top 4. And I think his teammates are going to play well. And Alpha is going to play well too, but I think he's going to be overshadowed by some of his teammates. So I have him here at 6, which is still 6 in the world is quite incredibly good. It should tell you how high I rate Vitality, how high I rate Alpha 54. But I think Alpha 54 is going to have some competition on a list like this from his own teammates. It's honest truth. So I think he'll be here around this level of impact. Alright, next up, top 5. I have Yanks. I think Yanks is going to do quite well. I don't know how well Fury will do. I think they could go all the way to like the grand final and give it a run for their money. And if they do, I think it'll be Yanks. I think he's an incredible player. He has had periods of inconsistency, but especially on LAN, he steps up. And I expect him to step up on this LAN as well. So yeah, not much more to say. I think he's the leader of Fury. I think although they added Loss, another incredibly mechanical player, I think Yanks is one of the most mechanical players in the world, and I think he's one of the best. And he will continue to show that, even if his team doesn't do well. So I think he would be around here kind of no matter where Fury places unless they bomb out. But I don't think they'll get quite far. Alright, top 4 time. Next up is Exotic. Now, Karmine Corp's been playing incredible Rocket League, and Exotic is sometimes an unsung hero as part of that. I think everybody knows Vatira, and a lot of people are fans of Itachi, but I don't think Exotic gets enough credit. I think he's an incredible player, and I think he's going to show up on this LAN as well, and prove why he is one of the top 4 players in the world, or potentially the best player in the world. But yeah. I have him here at 4. I don't think he will be the best. I think he has some stiff competition on his own team. And again, just a repeating motif. But he is a great teammate that everyone knows what I'm talking about. So I might as well go to the next slide. It is Vatira. I think Vatira's an even better player than Exotic. Everyone knows it. I mean, he knows how to win. He knows how to bring a win out of his teammates. He's played with a lot of different teams with different players. And he just wins. He doesn't win every event, he doesn't win every series, but he's very consistent, and I think he's going to be one of the best players on this LAN. But I do have him at 3, because there is one team that's better. And there are 2 players left that are, I've kind of revealed, are the last 2 on this list. And in revealing the number 2 player, it'll be kind of controversial, because I'll be revealing one at the same time. But let me talk a little bit more about Vatira. I think that of all the players on this list up to now, he could be the best in the world because he has been in the past, and he was for quite a while, I'd say. And I think if I am wrong about this major, I think this will be the one, because I think Karmine Corp could, if any team were to stop Vitality, I've been thinking about this recently because I had Furia in my bracket making the grand final, and I do think Furia could go that far. But I also was thinking who could beat Vitality, and one of the answers I was coming up with was Karmine Corp, because they beat Vitality in a series. They reset the bracket in the second regional, I believe it was. They didn't win the follow-up series though, because Vitality obviously got the triple crown. But I think if any team were to do it this LAN and upset the seemingly heavy favorites in Vitality, it would be Karmine Corp, which is kind of like it would kind of be what's it called? a disappointing end for one super team to be beat by another super team, and everyone would just be left feeling like, well, come on, why these were the two best teams in the land? It's not really much of an upset, but it would still be an upset, and I think Vatira could earn it. So if he does get that upset, he probably will be the best player in the world. All right, without further ado, I hinted at it. Here are your top two, and we're gonna start with number 2, Radosin. Now, a lot of people might be surprised I have him so high. I have him higher than Alpha. I have him higher than Vatira. Am I crazy? Possibly. But I think Radosin is incredible. And I don't think... this is probably my... of the split, I'd say, my most surprising player. And everyone's going to be able with Zen. But I think Zen had a lot of hype coming in. And as I've revealed it, he is the number 1 on the list. But I think Radosin was like the most improved player. But usually when you hear someone call him most improved, it's like they went from being like one of the worst players to like middle of the pack. But no. This was Radosin going from middle of the pack to one of the best. And I don't think I've seen a most improved player quite like Radosin. And I do truly believe most improved, which, not to say he was bad last split. And then they got top 4, I think, at the major, right? Something like that. He played great, but he is playing like a world champion right now. And I think they're going to continue that. I think they're going to win this major. Whether, Worlds is a month out, we'll see how far they go there. They could win that as well. But at least for this major, I think he's going to keep on that world champion level form. And if he does, he sometimes plays better than Zen. I think he's going to have series where he is the best player. And although Zen is probably going to come out on top and be the best player in the world, Radosin easily could outclass his teammate. I think he's leveled up his game. And I'm kind of surprised it happened. It was shocking to me. I did not expect him to be as good as he is, but here he is. It's kind of at the point where I'm like, wow, I don't think he could upgrade Vitality right now. Obviously, the obvious answer is Vatira. He's quite good. But that's the point, is like, who do you cut out? Because Alpha 54 is so good, Radosin's so good, Zen's so good, that it would be controversial, I'd say, to cut any of them at this point. Not that anyone wants to change, and I'm not suggesting they should change, but I'm just saying, even if you were having a theoretical rostered move, I don't think you could upgrade Vitality. But yeah, and so that's it. I think Radosin will be one of the best in the world. But now, the real, without further ado, is number 1, and it's Zen. I think he's next level. I know it's kind of a... In some ways, there is some controversy picking him 1, because he's never played on land before, whereas Radosin has, so that would be less controversial. But I just feel like people like to say, oh, but will they do it on land? But if you have a team that's done so well online in such a hard region as Europe, the odds of them not showing up on land, it would be a fluke. It could be a fluke if they don't show up on land. Then they could go to Worlds and win it, which is kind of what happened with BDS last season. So I think Zen's either going to show up on this land or it will be a fluke. I don't see a world where he could win 3 regionals and look so good with his teammates and be that guy that knows when to sit back and let his teammates do the work and knows when to go and score crazy redirect goal that leaves even non-Rocket League people who is it? Big streamer like XQZ reacting. I mean, this guy is insane and everyone knows it. Even people that don't know Rocket League know it. So I don't think you can do that and then not be good on land. I just don't see it happening. And if he is even just the same on land as online, he's going to be the best player in the world. And so I think that's an easy prediction to make. I'm pretty confident in this. Who knows? Like I said, I think there's 10 maybe players that could be best in the world, my top 10. Any of them could be, but I think Zen will be the one, and I think he's the heavy favorite for that. His team's the heavy favorite to win the whole event. And yeah, we'll see how Zen does. It's an exciting time. I'm going to be glad to be there in person, so no matter what goes down, I'm going to get to see it in Boston. I'll try to make by the way, because we're coming up on the end of the video here, I will try and make a vlog video in Boston, and we'll see how that goes. I've never done anything like that before. So if you are interested in seeing more content like that or other RLCS related videos, please hit that subscribe button and like the video. And yeah, don't forget to comment, who do you think the best player in the world is? I think if there's one takeaway from this video, you should be thinking about who's, not only what team's going to win the major, but who do you think the best player is going to be? I think it's Zen. Maybe disagree. Let me know in the comments. Alright, that'll do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, it's Aspect13. I'll see you guys next time.